The navigation tools in Shaper 3D are really quite intuitive and easy to use, and might be somewhat familiar to navigation tools you've used in other apps as well. So, for example, to zoom in or zoom out of our objects, we can simply press down with two fingers and pinch in or pinch out as we may need to zoom in or zoom out to our objects. To rotate our objects, again, very simple. This time, press down with just a single finger and move one way or the other to rotate our objects however we may need. Finally, we also have an option to pan or move our objects, and that's just moving an object one way or another without rotating. And we can do that by, again, pressing down with two fingers, and this time not pinching in or out, but just moving or sliding our two fingers across the screen one way or another in any direction to pan or move our objects up or down in any direction we may like. We also have our orientation cube in the top right corner, which is very useful. I can jump to standard views just by tapping on, let's say, the front view here, and we've jumped to the front view. A double tap on that orientation cube jumps me into my default isometric or 3D view. And same idea, I can jump to a top view, right view, whatever it might be. And then again, double tap to jump back to my 3D view. Also handy if I tap and drag my pencil on the orientation cube, we can see that this can also be used as a rotation tool. We can also tap on corners or edges of our orientation cube to jump to more specific angles. We also have a number of useful view and appearance options up in the top right corner here. There I have all my default views, such as the top view, right view, and so on. And I also have my default view, which will jump me back into that default isometric or 3D view. We also have some appearance options here. Here I have the option to change my view to be more perspective. And perspective view, objects which are further away appear smaller than those nearby. Thus, a perspective view is the view we normally see by our eyes, for example. Or we could go to more of an orthographic view, and in an orthographic view, all objects appear at the exact same scale or kind of their true dimensions. Or, of course, somewhere in the middle, and this is just going to really depend on your own personal preferences. We also have the ability to show hidden edges, so just turn this on here, and this can be very useful. As we can see, we can now see all hidden edges in any designs. So this, of course, is useful, as now I can select any edges that might be, for example, on the backside of my object, which would otherwise be very difficult or impossible to select without having that show hidden edges option on. And of course I can jump back in and turn show hidden edges off. Finally, I also have allow two-finger rotation. I can turn this on or off as needed. If it's on, now I can rotate by turning my two fingers, as we can see here. And of course, if I were to then turn this off, now notice my two fingers can no longer rotate. It can only be used for zooming or panning around. Finally, I can also control my units options in the top right corner there as well. Here I can change between various units, millimeters, centimeters, inches, and so on. And I can also change the unit format here, such as fractional or decimal, as my requirements may need. Finally, I have the option to lock the grid size. So for example, if this is turned off, let's say, notice as I zoom in or out, my grid size changes. And I can also see the grid size in the top right corner there. So right now it's 50 millimeters. If I zoom in a little bit, now it's 10 millimeters. Zoom in further, now it's 1 millimeter, and so on. And if I were to lock that grid size, so now again jump in there at 10 millimeters, I'm going to lock that grid size. So now I can see it's locked in at 10 millimeters. So if I were to zoom out, notice it stays at 10 millimeters. And same idea, of course, if I zoom in, it will remain at 10 millimeters. And as we can see, really the navigation tools in Shaper 3D are very, very intuitive and easy to use. I would recommend just playing around with these navigation tools using your fingers and your pencil, and really within a few minutes you should become very comfortable with these navigation tools.